Hello and welcome to this videocast and podcast for subscribers to davidicke.com. Well, the whole subject of police and tasers has been in the news this week after the death of a former English footballer, Dalian Atkinson, the age of 48, after being tasered by police in the English Midlands. And according to witness reports, he was tasered multiple times, even when he was on the floor. And according to at least one witness, he was kicked by police when he was on the floor. Now, this whole incident is subject to an investigation to see exactly what happened. And we hope the truth of whatever happened will come out. But what I want to talk today about is the whole arming of police, the whole police state structure that is emerging all over the world, in which the use of tasers and the deployment of tasers is a significant part. It's said that we should support the police. No, we shouldn't. We should support the police who act with integrity and fairness and justice and treat everyone the same and seek to do a job of helping, supporting and protecting the community. Those sorts of police officers absolutely should be supported. Now, question. But not all police officers are like that. Some of them, increasing numbers of them from where I'm observing around the world, have psychopathic tendencies. And this mentality is being given tasers and other weaponry in the same way as genuine police officers are. And what should be happening, of course, is that the system, the process, should be filtering out those psychopathic personalities so they don't get even near a uniform. But that is often not what is happening. In fact, as I've identified over the last 20 years or so, there has been a blatant process of hiring psychopathic mentalities to the uniform professions to impose the will of the state and the hidden hand behind the state in an ever more vicious way. And, you know, if you are of a psychopathic nature, you want control over people, you want power over people, then you are going to be attracted to those professions that allow you to use that power, have that power of the uniform over people. And these are the ones that are also, like I say, being handed out weaponry and tasers. Tasers that unleash 55,000 volts of electricity at a human body which operates through electrical and electromagnetic communication. The heart works electrically. The brain works electrically. The central nervous system and the muscles work electrically in terms of communication. And this is why hundreds now of people around the world have died after being tasered. Of course, that's going to happen in cases where the electrical communication or the electrical activity, say of the heart, is affected by this unleashing of an electrical charge to the point where it ceases to function and the person dies. And what are long-term effects of that massive charge of electricity hitting someone, often over and over again? Because what we're seeing with all this is what I call the totalitarian tiptoe. The police are becoming more and more weaponized, and people like me are old enough, in Britain anyway, to remember when a police officer having a gun was like a really big thing. I mean, it was almost unheard of, because the police used to walk around the community and go about their business without the need for firearms or tasers. And then as you bring in these weapons, the way that situations were dealt with before, which might have taken a lot of time, it might have taken a lot of negotiation, a lot of talking, are suddenly dealt with by unleashing a taser on someone. It's not only psychopathic policing when it's done with psychopathic intent, and don't let anyone kid themselves, it's not on occasions, at least occasions. It's lazy policing often as well. And this totalitarian tiptoe in relation to the taser has gone like this. First of all, they introduce them, and they say it's only for trained firearmed officers, and it's only for situations where people's lives are in danger, or they're in danger of being harmed, physically harmed. And then the tiptoe starts. They expand this to more and more police officers, to the point now where the police federation that represents police officers in Britain is demanding that every police officer is given a taser. Madness. And what's also happened is that their use has increased in terms of when they pull them out. We've gone past now, if you see YouTube videos galore from around the world, we've gone now well past where it's just for situations where people are harmed or in danger of being harmed. They're being used in situations where people are just questioning the police about their right to stop them, or on what basis in law are they doing what they're doing. Out comes the taser. And these are the psychopathic police officers that react in that way, because one of the psychological traits of a psychopath is you don't question them, because they are all powerful. They will not be questioned. They will not be challenged in their omnipotence. And so we are on a very dangerous road where the police are being more and more armed. I mean, in America, forget it. I mean, we've got police in America going around in tanks. They look like the military. They act like the military. They're armed like the military. And the taser in the United States is less important in terms of what's going on than absolutely using a proper gun. But in Britain, the taser is very much in the spotlight at the moment after Dalian Atkinson's death, because of the way they're being used. We have a situation now in this totalitarian tiptoe where tasers are being used around the world on children. They're being used on people in wheelchairs. One guy in Britain was tasered by police. He was a blind man with a stick, and they tasered him because they mistook the stick for a samurai sword. I mean, it's not just that the authorities are recruiting more and more psychopaths. They're recruiting idiots. And, you know, I feel for the genuine police officer, of which there are still many, thank goodness, who have to work in this new environment of recent decades, in which more and more of these idiots and psychopathic mentalities are recruited into the police. It must be a nightmare. And just as many teachers are leaving the profession, many good teachers are leaving the profession because education is such a catastrophic place to work now in terms of the state's imposition and the structure and all the administrative impositions that go on and limitations that are imposed. So many genuine, decent police officers with integrity, the kind we want, are also leaving because they can't stand it anymore. We are seeing this complete sea change taking place in the dynamic between the police and the public. And there is a reason for this, as I've been writing in the books for so long. We are watching the creation of a global structure and a structure individually within countries of what I call the Hunger Games society. This is a society, if you can imagine a pyramid, with the less than 1% at the top, the rest of the population in servitude and financial struggle at the bottom of the pyramid, and in the middle, between the two, a vicious, merciless police state to hold that status quo and to keep the masses in line and from rebelling against the less than 1%. Now that structure is unfolding so fast, it's ridiculous. And this whole transformation of the police from a organization that served society to one that imposes the will of the state upon society is all part of this emerging creation of this Hunger Games society. And if we allow this to go on unchallenged, if we allow the indiscriminate use of tasers to go on and the outrageous use of them in so many situations, then this Hunger Games society police state is going to move into its goal of complete and utter control quicker and more powerfully than if we start standing up against it and challenging its impositions and challenging the whole idea that you can hand out these weapons to people who are completely unsuited mentally to have them. You've only got to look around videos on YouTube with regard to police in America, for instance, to see that the very last person that should ever have a uniform, should ever be given a gun or a taser, is being recruited into law enforcement and into so-called security. And they want them. They want those people. This is why it's happening. They want those people because they want psychopathic mentalities to impose the police state, to impose the Hunger Games society control structure. I mean, you know, the kind of things that they are wanting these Hunger Games society police officers to do. Genuine people, genuine police officers who want to serve society, who want to administer justice and fairness, they wouldn't do. They would refuse to do it. So they want the psychopaths because they won't refuse to do it. They'll get off by doing it. And this is why this dynamic is changing all the time. And, you know, whatever happened with Daley and Atkinson this week, we hope will come out in this inquiry that's underway. But what it has done again is just highlight and remind people where we are in terms of this emerging use of tasers within this, what I would call, greater police state structure that is emerging. And like I say, if you look at police officers today compared with when I was a kid, they look like soldiers, troops, and they're armed like them. And this is all part of this process of creating what they want, which is a world army stroke police force with a central command structure globally, which would have this military imposition of law enforcement upon the people, when the police forces that we've known in the past would no longer exist. They would be expressions of the military. And to see police going around in tanks and armored vehicles given to them for next to nothing, sometimes absolutely nothing, often absolutely nothing, by the Pentagon, in a blatant transfer of military technology to police forces. When you look at that, you are looking at this Hunger Games society moving into place. So what we've seen this week is a reminder of where we're going and how people are being hit, often in the chest, brackets where the heart is, by these massive charges of electricity in the name of law enforcement, often in circumstances that are completely unjustified and would have been dealt with another way had the tasers not been available. And, you know, the thing about these incidents when people die, it can be said that they're bad for the credibility of the taser and the use of the taser, because people go, what's going on? But there's another way of looking at this as well. And that is that when people are harmed by tasers and die after being tasered, then that means that when a police officer says to someone, you will do what I say, and I've got a taser, then people will do what they say, even though it might be outrageous and unjustified. Because when tasers were being introduced, I read an article by a journalist who'd watched them being used in a training situation, a demonstration situation. By the way, there are police officers that have issued lawsuits for being harmed in terms of their health as a result of being tasered in training exercises. But this journalist, he wrote this article, and the headline was close to the words, "I'll do anything you say, officer, just don't use that thing on me." And so it's in one way, incidents like what happened this week are bad for the taser in terms of people looking at what has happened. But in another way, psychologically, it makes people more frightened of it, and thus less likely to question and challenge authority in such situations, but to go along meekly out of fear of being hit by this device. In my house, and I'm the only one that lives here, so I agree with myself, in my house, that's called fascism. And that is where we're going. And we're going there day by day, step by step, as police become more detached from people, more a force of imposition upon people, and more weaponized to intimidate people. We take it or we challenge it. The outcome for society of those two choices will be stunningly different.